Hi, Deon here, and this is the ninth Apocalypse Check-In. It's a little outdated because what I'm about to describe to you actually happened about 2 days ago when my son called me, and I'd like to just recount the story because I'm sure many of you would be interested, or maybe you're in the same boat as we have been and he has now been. So you all know the Nigerian scam of 10, 15 years ago. Some people are still getting these emails. Some wealthy prince of Wakanda is sending you all his inheritance, 22 billion rand, if only you send him 1,000 rand to somehow unlock the process, and here are the bank details. So, of course, nobody's caught by that scam anymore because we've all heard it, we understand it, we look for the signature details of bad spelling and poor grammar, and you look at all the red lights, but there's a new buying scam. And it's quite subtle, and it deserves an Oscar award for the number of people involved in the scam, as well as the level of commitment they have to the scam. So what happens is this. You sell something online on a portal like Bid or Buy or Gumtree, and maybe you're selling a camera or a PlayStation or an Xbox, or in my son's case, he was selling his Nintendo Switch, and he thought, I'm going to get like 8 grand for this thing, and I'm going to buy some amazing article once I've sold it. So he saw it as a great cash boost for something else he wanted. And of course, that already put him in a state of expectation and psychologically ready to follow some false positives. And that's exactly what happened. What the scam artists do is they get hold of you very shortly after you've posted it and say, can I see a photo? They ask you some questions about the item so they seem legitimate. So you answer their questions, and then they immediately tell you, yes, I want it. I'm in fact very keen to get it. I will send you an EFT right now. And within a few minutes, you get some kind of proof of payment. That's the first big confirmation factor in your brain that this is okay. Well, this seems legit. I've got a Nedbank confirmation saying this money is going in. It will reflect in 3 days. The thing is that what the buyer then does is phones you back and says, did you receive my confirmation? You go, yes. And he says, a driver's on his way to you right now to pick up the item. That's not quite what you agreed with him, but you do have the confirmation, and the driver's on the way, and you figure, how bad can it be? So the driver arrives, Daniel gives the driver his Nintendo Switch, and the driver leaves. And everything still seems okay in your mind, except now they push it further. The scam could have just ended there. They could have disappeared with the goods and never spoken to Daniel again. We had the same thing last year. It was with speakers. We were selling a set of speakers, and literally the same sequence of events took place. I think, unfortunately, I hadn't told my son about it, so he wasn't seeing the signs a couple of days ago. Anyway, so the driver disappears, and suddenly you get another call just after the driver's left. And the story changes a little bit. The guy on the other side of the line spins some heart-wrenching story like, he suddenly realized he needs that cash for some life-threatening thing, a family member's dying, or he needs to travel, or whatever it is. And he actually needs his money back, but he's just sent you all his money. So would you just make a deposit into his account, or even better, send him a cash transfer via e-wallet so that he can get out of his thing? And by the way, he's sending the driver back to me right now. And you think, okay, the driver's on the way, this guy needs his money. Now, someone like me goes, when the driver arrives with the goods, I'll pay you your cash. But with the emotional sort of urgency of the whole thing, Daniel goes, sure, and sends him some money on e-wallet, $1,000, to help this guy in this urgent crisis of a time. Then the driver doesn't arrive back. Now we're into the third level of depth of this scam. The driver calls you, and the driver says, hey, the guy who sent me with your goods doesn't want to pay me, and I am not giving him the goods, and I'm not coming back with the goods unless I have a guarantee that my fare, because it's usually like an Uber driver or a false Uber driver, and he says my petrol has to be covered. In fact, I can't even bring your stuff back because I'm not moving until somebody pays my bill. And he says, you can e-wallet me, here's my number, email me $100 to cover the cost, or $200 or $300 to cover the cost of my Uber services. And you're like, hey, hold on, this is not my problem. The buyer sent you. I didn't get drivers involved. Even Daniel went down this line of reasoning. This is his problem. And then the driver calls you to say, listen, I'm really sorry. You probably had a call from the driver. He doesn't want to bring me the Nintendo Switch. He doesn't want to take it back to you. And he's threatening to go and sell your Nintendo Switch to someone else if somebody doesn't pay him. But I promise you, I don't have the money. You have to pay the driver if you want your Nintendo Switch back. I wish I could help you. I wish you weren't in this situation, but this is where we find ourselves. And in our case, I kind of went, oh God, what's $100? I'll get the driver back. So I pay him $100. And of course, at that point, everyone disappears and you never hear from anyone again. In Daniel's case, he fought and fought. And then he called me to say, something's wrong with all this. And I said, you've just been scammed. And so what happens is they try and, the easy part of the scam, ironically, is the expensive part, which is taking your device or your item and disappearing with it with a false payment methodology. The second part is the, hey, pay me some money because of my disaster about to take place until the money reflects in your account, which you may or may not do depending on, who you are and how much money you have. And then the third part of the scam is pay the driver a couple of $100. But of course, the driver and the person, they're all the same people. It's all the same group. And you hear different voices on the phone and they sound eloquent. One guy is an Indian guy. One guy is, sounds like some banker. Another guy sounds like a driver of an Uber. And before you know it, your brain's kind of going, well, this can't, like you're not even thinking that it could be some kind of conspiracy, some kind of scam, because everything just seems too coincidental, too well thought about. And before you know it, you could be out of a switch, out of $1,000, out of $1,200, and everyone disappears, and there's no way you can trace them. They've taken a SIM card, they've thrown it in the dustbin, and they've switched their numbers around. But what I realize is that they use the same pickup points, the same addresses, and I'm hoping somebody hears this, maybe the cops. When we get out of quarantine, we'll go and share all the information we have, but that somebody starts to trace and track these guys and shut them down. So if you find that you're selling something online and it's too easy and it sounds too good to be true, the chances are it is. My advice to you is meet someone in a public place like at a McDonald's, make sure it's cash or make sure that money is reflecting in your account before you release any item to anyone. And whatever you do, don't invite people to your house. So there's a little warning and a little cautionary tale from me. Cheers.